Welcome back to the Masters of the Nerdiverse podcast, where we always have such sights to show you. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G, and back with me, as always, is the ultimate one. You may have seen her coaching the Cypher in El Monte. You may have seen her in Long Beach throwing out business cards like ninja stars. You may have seen her at Home Depot, lifting bags over her head, 100 pounds, no problem, no pressure. She's the one. She's known in certain circles as the angled one. You know what I'm saying? Put some respect on her name. We got the one, the only, LA's finest, Tootie Odin. Holla at your girl. Stop playing with her name.
All true, by the way. Every single one of those are facts. Thank you for that.
Facts. I don't even know how to
Facts
start
and
this episode.
bars.
Facts and bars. I don't even know how to start this episode today. This is crazy. MOTN Top 10 is back, yo.
Yay! Our fave.
For those who aren't initiated, here at MOTN, Masters of the Nerdiverse, and all conglomerates affiliated, have once in a long blue moon have done what we call the MOTN Top 10, where we choose our picks of our top 10 anything. It's gone from top 10 cartoons, top 10 music videos. We've done a ton of top 10s. A lot of them can be found on our website, mastersofthenerdiversecast.com. This time, with the brilliant mind of Toots Odin, we've decided to pay homage to one of our favorite documentary, what do you even call it? Review
I call it a
moments show.
countdown series.
Countdown series found on Bravo's, known as 100 Scariest Movie Moments. And Tootie's brilliant idea was to say, hey, let's bring in the holidays. Let's bring in October right and do our own top 10. Toots, how'd you get this idea?
I was watching Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments on YouTube, which is something that Mike G and I used to do in college. We would rip that damn countdown apart. It was, I think, 10 episodes because it would count down 10 different movies in each episode. So it was hours, like literally an entire day of binging. We probably invented binging, if you ask me, because we would literally watch that back to back and it would take hours. It'd be like all day. And it was TiVo'd. Back then we had TiVo at the time. So it was recorded already. So we wore the TiVo out. Like it is till this day one of the greatest horror countdown documentaries or horror countdown series ever to exist. Also has tons of amazing horror directors, actors and actresses that have passed away since. One immediately is Elizabeth Pena. Like that's the one that comes to mind all the time because I still I can't believe she's gone type thing. So amazing series. You guys can only catch it on YouTube if you're lucky enough to find it, but it is on YouTube and it's a joy to watch. Absolutely.
Yes, you mentioned those who have passed away on the actual series. Like you mentioned, Elizabeth Pena, Wes Craven, Stan Winston, George Romero, just some big names that is honestly one of the last time you see them be candid and comfortable talking about the horror genre and how much they love it. As Tootie mentioned, this is something that was on steady rotation almost daily. We would watch this just kind of like as a background noise, and it gave us the interest to hunt down the movies we never saw, which were plentiful. There were a ton of movies like The Tenant and
The
Duel, the Tenant, in the truck and Duel. And it's just it's funny, it's scary. I don't know about you, Toots, but I still get some parts of it kind of freak me out even now. Like as I watch it in a lit room on a Sunday morning, it still kind of scares me. So with that, we have decided to do our own top 10 scariest horror movie moments. So how this is going to break down is I have my top 5, Toots has her top 5. And we're going to go band for band. We're going to go 5 for 5, 4 for 4. And we're going to go through our top 5 horror movie moments, which will make up till 10. and just explain our history with it and kind of go through that series. So, with all that said and done, let's get started with number five. Toots, take it away.
Okay, so number five is 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street. The scene in particular is the one that you see there pictured. Freddy's long arms. It freaked me out because I remember watching it, and I remember at the time we were at my cousin's grandma's house. We're Mexican, so everybody's grandma's everybody's grandma. But we were at my cousin's grandma's house, and she lived in between, like right next to an alleyway that looked particularly exactly like the one here in this photo here. And I'll never forget the scene because Freddy's doing the long arms thing, but they kept getting longer and longer and longer. And I remember it just destroyed me as a kid. I don't remember how old I was. I must have been 3 or 4 years old, but it destroyed me as a kid to the point where I've never seen that scene since until like now. I've never actually actively watched that scene since that time. I've seen pictures and I've seen minor clips, but I like as far as like the movie's concerned, it just wasn't something that came about. I do think they did it in the new version of Freddy, which I loved. A lot of people hate it. They said it sucked, but I loved it. The one with the fella that played Rorschach.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they actually did the scene in that one. But the only reason it wasn't the same is because it was done with CGI, so it looked like a total cartoon. If I'm remembering it wrong, my bad, but I really do think they did do it in that scene. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Because in this one, oh my God, he was literally like doing this, and then his arms and his claws were like scraping the sides of the walls. Oh my gosh, like total nightmare fuel all day. So that's my number five.
Yeah, it was funny. When growing up in my house, I saw Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warrior before I saw the first one. So I saw this movie late in life. I saw it honestly, like in college. I didn't see the first one. It's just one of those holes in my horror movie lexicon. Like I didn't see two and I didn't see one. I saw all the ones ahead of it, but I never saw two and one. And just one day I decided to watch one. I was like, I'm just going to check it out. And I was like, oh, they really tried to make Freddy scary in this first one. Like it was no jokes, no come here, bitch, nothing crazy like that. No Freddyisms. It was just raw horror fuel. And like you said, that scene where his arms just keep getting longer and his finger claws are scratching against the wall. And he's like, this is God. And he shows his claw. And it's like, Jesus. Like as a kid, I can only imagine. Yeah, that's the one with Badass Kincaid.
That's actually my favorite
one, honestly. But only because it's cool, not because it's scary. Because it's cool.
Because it's really cool.
You know what I mean? This is scary. Like number five is, like you said, just pure nightmare fuel. And, Robert Englund still bringing it to this day. It's crazy. Cool beans. So let's go to
it's good.
My number five, which is unconventional, because it's not a horror movie, but it scared the bejesus out of me. This is Pee-wee's Big Adventure out of 1985. Pee-wee's bike surgery nightmare scene. And I haven't, like you, I haven't seen this scene since the first time I saw it. I don't watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure because it scares me. Like this movie legit scared me as a kid.
It is very scary. Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be. It's in that Willy Wonka kind of pocket. You know what I mean? Where it throws you for a loop. It sucker punches you. Between this and the clown outside the store and Large Marge and just why are you showing this to children? You know what I mean? And as a kid, this was like some weird nightmare, and it's like really Tim Burton-ish in its approach, and it just gave me nightmares for weeks. I was terrified of this scene as a kid. So yeah, my number five is Pee-wee's bike surgery scene. If you know, you know. Ugh. I still don't like it.
I think this traumatized. I think the movie itself traumatized a lot of people. This scene is actually in my honorable mentions. By the way, because yeah, it's actually a very intense scene. Also, I just want to point out, Mike G wrote out all these paragraphs. So if you guys pause for a second and then read out the what's it about. Do that because they're actually done really well. And thank you, Mike G, for doing that. They look great.
I can't take most of the credit. I just did a little research, and I try to put out a good product. So thank you. Absolutely.
Oh, you're very welcome. But yeah, this scene, You know what's funny is that this movie is nonstop creepy. Like this movie in
Yeah.
particular. Like, do you remember the scene? Remember the scene where the where he's driving or whatever, and then the road keeps getting windier and windier. The
Yeah, it's
signs keep
nightmare
getting more
fuel.
windy,
Signs are
and
winding
he
with the road.
crashes. And then but then he crashes, right? And then so he's in the dark, and then they do the cartoon eyes where it's like he's walking and
Hmm.
it's just his cartoon eyes in the pitch black. And then once the power or once the light comes back up, he just screams ah, and then
He
all
goes
these animals are around
like
him out of
nature is
nowhere.
behind him. Yeah, and it's like
Oh
giant
my,
cougars.
that
Terrifying.
scary as hell. Yeah,
This is a horror movie. I don't care what anybody
for
says.
sure,
I don't care
for
about the
sure.
solution. And you literally see Pee Wee's bike get dismembered. They rip it apart and
Yeah,
like distort it, and it's like so unsettling. I can't with it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
yeah.
Number five.
And the music with it builds. Like it,
Yeah,
obviously it's Danny Elfman. The music is building on this moment, like
yeah.
on
The
the bike
tension.
getting like when it's like not that they're ripping a knife into the bike, but essentially the idea is that a knife is being ripped into a body, right? That's what the bike is supposed to
Hmm.
interpret. And the music goes right along with it, like, and it just gets more and more intense and more and more, and it builds up more and more. And the music had a lot to do with the fact that this movie was pretty scary, though, for sure.
And,
The music was
and
very
plus,
boom.
all that and just eject clowns as well. You know, just all that nonsense.
Yes,
Then
yes.
clowns on top of
Then
it.
clowns also, yeah. Mhm.
Then clowns. It's the name of
Send
our
in the
clip.
clowns.
Send in the damn clowns. Tootie Odin, what is your number four?
My pick for number four is the movie Insidious 2010, director James Wan. The exploring the house scene. What did you call it here? Into the Further. There you go. Into the
Mhm.
Further. Yeah, that scene got me. So because we've grown such a hide to horror movies because we've seen them all, and gore doesn't really get me so much. A lot of stuff doesn't get me so much. What gets me is sedimentary scenes, like scenes where it's like, well, there's not much happening. It's the subtlety in the scene that gets me in this. There's intense music in that. There's violence going, "Arr!" And like all kinds of weird noises happening on top of silence. Like this entire scene is actually really silent, with the exception of the classic horror sound effects. But what gets me about it is these characters don't move in this dream sequence or whatever it is of him exploring the house and going into the further. These characters don't do anything out of the ordinary until they look at him. And when they look at him, all they're doing is staring intensely with this insane smile on their face, very Joker esque. And
Hmm.
it's weird because the mom is ironing, and they're like this. They're watching TV, and they're dressed in these 50s vintage wear, where it's like you're getting to know who used to live in this extremely haunted environment, but you're understanding that these are not normal people by any means necessary. These people are here to actively take you away with them. And it's really insane because they don't do it in a way where it's like, ah, they do it in a way where it's, hi, I'm going to
Hi.
get you.
Welcome. Welcome.
Just, it's too much for me. I haven't, after that, it was very, one is very unsettling, but two, there isn't very many scenes that I'm thinking about over and over and over. And that was definitely one of like, I can't watch that again. It creeps me out. I have seen it many times after that. I guess Insidious would be considered kind of a cheeseball movie now for a lot of
Hmm.
people, but to me, um, it played well, especially that specific scene where he has no choice but to go into the further to figure out how to get his son back because their son's in a coma. I don't know if he was taken physically. I don't remember that part, but the son's gone. Like
Yeah.
he's brain dead. He's not there. Dude's asleep. He won't wake up. So they're just trying to figure out. They finally figured out that it is demonic, and they're just trying to figure out how to fix the situation. So dad goes into the further and does his best to get his son back, and all of these people are there making sure that that doesn't happen. And again, the most eerie, strangest, most subtle way possible. In that, again, they're not moving. They're not jump scaring him. He's jump scaring himself essentially in this scene. But yeah, they're not jump scaring him. There's not real monsters outside of the evil lady with the black veil who doesn't even show up in the scene till the end. It's
Hmm.
just these people, just these regular ass human beings with these creepy ass faces. And again, their eyes are just darting at you wide eyed, and nothing is happening. There's nothing going on up here. There's nothing
Yeah.
going on up here. So really creepy.
Isn't this the scene where they took the song like "Tiptoe Through the
Yeah,
Window"?
I think so.
And
Yeah.
it's like going on at the same time in the background.
I don't know if it's this scene, but it's definitely this movie that brought that movie or brought that song into the creep factor. Yeah.
I love this part in movies, like in horror movies. It reminds me of Ash going into the basement in Evil Dead. You know what I mean? It reminds me of Ripley going back to save Newt. You know what I mean? Get away from her, you bitch levels of like, okay, we got to go into the heart of darkness. You know what I mean? To save our kid, to save XYZ. And them just like preparing and girding their loins and being like, we're going into the further. You're not going to be prepared for what you're going to see, but you got to do what you got to do. And him going into the absolute darkness, and like you said, no big jump scares, no CGI, industrial lights and magic, just really well done makeup and a sense of dread that you can cut with a knife. You know what I mean? Those
Thank you.
movies early on did that really well, and I think that's why James Wan was such an innovator, because he pulled horror back to actually let's scare people. Let's not gross them out. Let's not make some giant CG monster. Let's just take it back to old school. And it worked. I mean, movies like Insidious,
It
The
worked.
Conjuring, you know what I mean? Those movies killed. And this scene
Yeah.
alone was nightmare fuel for many people, only because it's like the idea, right? It's like these creatures feed on your life essence and they're willing to drag you down with them to even get a
Right.
taste of life again. You know what I mean? Beautiful movie, honestly. And the ending
Right.
was crazy.
It's so funny you bringing up Tiny Tim, the Tiny Tim tiptoe through the tulips. It reminded me of Bravo's 100 Greatest Movie Moments when Ali Roth brings up "Wheels Turning" when he's
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
what
He's
is
talking
it?
about
Last
it's
House on the Left. Is that what it is?
yes, Last House on the Left. Yep.
Okay, yeah,
It's
yeah. And
like
he
this
has that the whole
juxtaposition.
that right the hokey music, this very wholesome song, country song playing, and they're just brutally like taking
Ripping people
intestines out of
apart.
people and okay, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
so
what
yay,
that's so
bravo, bravo,
sick.
bravo.
Bravo, bravo. Listen, okay. ISO on mic. Hold up. ISO on mic. Hold on. We're doing this ISO. ISO on mic. So bravo. I say this from the bottom of my damn bleeding heart. Bring out an HD version of 100 Scariest Movie Moments. I've asked you nicely. I need you to damn do it.
I've asked you
That's all.
nicely.
I've asked you nicely for years. I've asked you
You
nicely.
have, you have. We've written
I have an
letters.
email that I send out to these bastards.
This is not a lie,
I'm not
ladies and
playing with
gentlemen.
you.
He really does this. Does these with good reason. It's a very good. It's such quotables too. Oh my gosh! All right, we gotta stop harping on Bravo. But yeah.
It's
That
it.
was
Yeah. It's just
such a good series.
you can teach it in classes. It's brilliant. Um. So my number four. After all that, sorry about that. MLT narrative hers. I go crazy sometimes. Um. My number four is Under the Covers, The Grudge, 2004. Um. It's funny.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I
That's a good
hate this damn scene. It's funny. I remember I was in Santa Clarita, um, waiting for certain masters of the Nerdiverse to get off work, and I went to go see a movie, and I just had time to kill. Mind you, it's like 12 in the afternoon, and I decided, oh, I'm just going to see The Grudge, just just something to kill time, right? And I go see The Grudge, 2004, just came out. I literally watched this movie in broad daylight, like Ghost is gonna come get me. You know what I mean? Like Ghost is gonna come, and it's the scene in particular because it's such a buildup. It's you know, our character is going through a building, and it's all subtly played. She's going through her elevator, and you could see Toshiro. You know what I mean? Like looking at it from each floor. Toshiro,
Toshiro.
oh shit! Yeah, he was tripping. Go through the floor. She finally, and she started to get creeped out. She's starting to hear the titular, sound effect. She gets under her covers. All you see is the head bob at first. No sound, no build up. And she looks under her covers. You see that little face right there, and it scared the bejesus out of me. It literally made me jump in my seat in the theater by myself. and I was terrified. And I was like, "That's good. I haven't been that scared in a long time." And the movie never hits you that hard again. And it's just the subtle, no sound, no music, like no build up, no crescendo. You know what I mean? It just hits you like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, oh, that's not fair. That wasn't a, that's one of my favorite jump scares of all time. Is this particular scene where she just, and then you see her get sucked under the covers, and it goes back to such a stupid like child fear that when your feet are, when you're going to sleep and your feet are hanging out off the edge of the bed, something's going to grab your ankles and pull you under. You know what I mean? It's like that kind
Biggest
of
fear.
fear. Biggest fear.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of scary. And it just taps into that part of your child brain. Like, yeah, I'm going to not wear covers for the next 30 business days. You know, just kick the covers away. Nothing's crawling under there to get me. Mind you, I'm like in my 20s in 2004. I'm like, no covers. I'm not playing any games. Yeah, Toots, that's going to be my number 4, The Grudge. I love that movie. It's one of my favorite American remakes of a beautiful Japanese Ju-on horror film.
There you go. What I remember specifically about that particular memory of you watching the movie is you being scared to go back to the garage where the car was parked.
One more time, Tootie.
I said the one thing I remember about this memory of yours with this movie is that you were afraid to go back to the garage where the car was parked. You were afraid to go back to the car garage.
Yeah,
I remember that. I remember that specifically. Like you didn't want to go back to the car garage, but yeah, I think you waited in the outdoor lobby area because it was right before I was. It was me, by surprise. I'm the MOTN person he was waiting for, but I think he waited downstairs in the outdoor lobby in the fresh air around human beings because he didn't want to go back to the carport where the car was parked.
Yep.
Which you were really freaked out. I'll never forget that. Another thing is, agreed, dude. This American version of a Japanese movie was done well, and especially because of this scene. Japanese horror only works in subtlety. Like only works in we're not going to build this up for you. You're just going to have to accept it when it comes. And it's one of the first ones actually. One of the first ones that I was introduced to when it came to Japanese American collaboration of horror. Because dude, Asian horror is ridiculous. Japanese and Korean horror are set apart. They're on such a different level. Like in different ways. Visually, they're stunning, they're dark, they're quiet, but they're so terrifying. And maybe that's the formula that horror actually is supposed to follow is the formula of subtlety, not so much jump scare and gore. I don't mind either, but I'm just saying, like, I think the way Japanese and Korean horror, as far as those are concerned, that's an amazing formula for horror, if you ask me.
It's funny you mentioned kind of like the movies that came in regards to the Japanese to American horror, because this is like right off the heels of The Ring and how that just took over the earth. You know what I mean?
That's right. The Ring was the first one. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So when this was announced, I was like, okay, here come the Japanese American horror films. They're all going to suck. They're all going to try to be The Ring, but not. And this was literally like right after The Ring. So I had low expectations for this movie. And I was like, holy crap, this is right up there. Is this a new thing? You know what I mean? And then you get other movies which are subpar. And then The Ring 2 and The Grudge 2. And it just never really stood up to the originals. But The Grudge really stood its own immediately after the wave of The Ring and how that just took the movies by storm. You know what I mean? So
also, mind you, The Grudge used a mainstream actress. The Grudge used Sarah Michelle Gellar for this film, and this is 3 years out of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so she was still fairly popular, and that was a huge risk to put a mainstream actress in a movie like this, but she rocked it. She did such a good job.
I love it, yeah, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Wasn't she in those as well?
I forgot about that. Yeah, those are a little campy to me, but yeah, you're right. She was in that movie for sure. Yeah.
You know, horror scream queen, you know, in a movie where it wants you to take it seriously. You know what I mean? And it's just, this whole movie just gives me the creeps. Tootie, look at this image. I love it. What's your number 3? Talk about it. Look at
it. Bro.
Confront it.
I can't. Poltergeist, obviously, 1982, where the dude starts peeling off his face. So this scene, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how bad it got me. I remember running out of the room and be like, "Mom, mom," because I couldn't comprehend that was really happening. And I remember doing that. I remember like, "Mom, mom, what's going on?" Like being really upset. Um, but okay, so this scene starts with him in the kitchen. Okay, so they're at the haunted house. They're at the poltergeist, the house that's being uh
Geisted.
well, geisted. So he goes, they're chilling, and nothing's happening at the moment. He goes into the kitchen. He starts looking for something to eat, something to cook or whatever. He pulls out some meats out of the fridge. The meats end up turning into maggots and all kinds of stuff. Like, obviously he's hallucinating, but we don't know that. It's a haunted house. It could be happening, it could not be happening. So he decides, yeah, I'm hallucinating. I'm tripping balls. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and wash my face. So he does. He walks into the restroom. He pours water on his face, and he notices a blemish. When he notices the blemish, he starts like picking at it
Picking
little
at
by
it.
little. And as he's picking at it, chunks of his face start coming off. And then all of a sudden, he goes into this weird trance where he just can't stop. And he's just literally picking his face apart. And you see the chunks of flesh falling into the sink. And this scene is so ridiculously realistic, like
Mm-hmm.
amazingly realistic. Like, obviously, they used real chunks of meat. I would imagine they used real animals' blood that mixed with the water perfectly as it went down the sink drain, the way blood would. If you're brushing your teeth or you have a bloody nose or whatever, you see water going down a drain while you're rinsing your face, while those normal natural things are happening to us, right? It was the same thing. It was literally the same type of sport. It was just a little bit too realistic. Um, I mean, not realistic in the sense where I'm going to go to the bathroom and like all of a sudden I'm going to start peeling on my face, but realistic to the sense of like if anything in horror were to happen, it would happen exactly in that way. If anything, if any ghost or dark presence was going to take over your brain, that's an amazing way to do it. To actually
Mm-hmm.
like have you destroy your own self physically is insanity to me. And again, I didn't go that deep when I was a kid. As a kid, I'm just looking at him going and like taking his face off, and excuse the disgusting facial expressions, but
That
that's
was
exactly
beautiful,
what he
by the
was
way.
doing. Thank you. Um, but yeah, man, this scene got me more than the clown scene. A lot of people like to talk about Poltergeist and their top 10 scariest movie scenes with and it's always the clown under the bed. Yes, super terrifying. This doesn't hold a count. That doesn't hold a candlestick to this one though. He's looking at himself. He's watching
Mm-hmm.
himself do this to himself. Like that's crazy. That's absolutely terrifying to me. It's not something. It's not somebody or something or a monster taking him. He's doing it to himself. That's
Mm-hmm.
just too much.
It's funny. Outside of the Hellraiser film, this is like the most graphic thing I saw at an early age. Like early,
Same.
like
Yeah.
like barely learning how to write early. You know what I mean? And mind you, this is a PG-13 film. You know what I mean? And PG-13s were a lot more lenient back then, with poltergeist, in this damn scene where geest, poltergeist,
Yes.
geest, where my man literally starts peeling off his face and it's just so surreal, and like you said, it looks real. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, like you said, not that, oh, I'm going to the bathroom and start ripping my face off. It looks like it's actually happening, for back then. And then for him to snap out of it, and he just comes back with a red. He's white as a ghost, but his face is all wet from him, like still scratching at his face. And it's like, what just happened? You know what I mean? Like that was unnecessarily gory for this film, and it never gets gory like that again. Outside of like
Mm-mm.
ectoplasm in that weird bathtub scene where they catch Caroline, that always freaked me out. The bathtub
And she's got
with the
like
with the
afterbirth all over her.
yeah, and have to rip it off of her like the fly. The whole movie.
Yeah.
What is that scene about? Yeah, they're just ripping off
Right? Yeah.
this ectoplasm
Right.
off of the baby and the mom, and it's like they got rebirthed. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like this scene is so, it starts subtly. I think like it's like the like you said, the chicken starts to like cancerfy and explode into itself. Egg, you know, there's the whole Ghostbusters eggs frying on this on the on the counter type effect, and this
Do you
guy's
remember the
going to
meat?
town.
The meat going
Yeah, it starts
walking
to
across the counter
crawl.
like
The meat starts to
that.
crawl, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And as a kid, and then he starts gargling on his own blood as he's ripping his face off. He's like,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I'm like, "What is?" And it just snaps out of it, and I'm like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
this is mom. Is one of those moms. Mom, what did I
Yeah,
just?
that's what I was telling you.
What did I
I lit
just?
because
Mom,
I don't know
help!
why they even were okay with me watching that. But yeah,
What?
I ran. My mom was in the bathroom at the time. Like she was
Mm-hmm.
in the bathroom. I don't remember what she must have been doing face care or something. But I remember like it was me and my sister watching it. We were in the El Cerrito house. I ran to the bathroom. I was like, Mom, what was that? What's happening? Like I was freaking out. I didn't know what else to do. Like it was odd. And then, and then it's okay. It's just a movie. And then she went back and we watched it. And then, and you know how parents do the thing. You see, that's not real. That's fake. You see, it's silly. So my mom was doing all that. Yeah. You know
Yeah,
how parents do that thing? I do that thing with the kids. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's called gaslighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's okay. We needed it back then. Was a different time. Now we would have
Thanks,
called that
mom.
out. Thanks, mom. My mom did the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
that's funny.
That's not
Yeah.
scary. My mom looks at my dad like,
Yeah.
"What the hell?
You're fine.
You're fine. Go outside. Go touch grass. Go throw a football." My mom looks at my dad like, "Jesus, we can't put that back on." Ooh,
Yeah, that's funny.
adios. That's funny. So
Mikey's number three.
my number three.
Sorry.
I was very G'd out. Speaking of G's, let's talk about the
Yeah,
rich man. We can't say it more than 5 times, but we're not in the mirror.
I wouldn't. I still wouldn't risk it.
Nightmares. You know what I mean? Um, Another movie I shouldn't have been damn watching as a kid. You know what I mean? And it's just the scene where it's the introduction of Candyman. You say his name 5 times, and his finger claws will breathe on your neck, and it's like there's really no build up to it. It's this young lady and her boyfriend over, who's Ted Raimi, brother of Sam Raimi, and he's like picking her up for a date, and she gets the bright idea to say Candyman 5 times in the mirror, and it's so subtle where it's like, and she's just playing around, and he just appears for a split second, and you hear the echo scream and the blood come. It's so subtle, but after that, I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't look at my reflection because because Tony Todd was going to be behind me with that sick ass coat, and and cut me from groin to gullet. You know what I mean? And it's like I thought Bloody Mary was fake, but I knew Candyman was real. Does that make sense? Like if anything
It
was going to be
does.
real, it was Mary. But I saw Candyman. He's right there. You know what I mean? And once you say it, he stalks you until you do his bidding. So this flashy scene and this whole film, and it's just like so beautiful and operatic and almost like a dream. You almost felt everything in this movie feels like a dream. Like it's happening, but it's not. You know what I mean? And this scene was just real enough as in my young Mikey brain to be like, yeah, these are words that I'm never going to say into a mirror ever in life. You know, just
No doubt.
infinite rules. Yeah, it was one of those infinite rules. Like, you know, like just certain things that you just don't do ever. So this film stays with me to this day. And it's one of my favorite. Once again, jump scare, one of my favorite jump scares of all time, and really got my goat when I was younger.
First of all, shout out to him being one of the very first black horror villains or horror monsters, I guess, ever, who
Yep,
rocked the hell out of it, and
yep.
an
Tony
absolute
Todd.
icon till this day. Dude did a perfect job. Tony Todd's voice is absolute insanity. The
Oh yeah, I
deepness
can't
of
even
his
mimic it.
voice,
It's too deep.
how he's so quiet and but also so terrifying at the same time. He means business every time he says something. and almost romanticizes his profession,
Yeah,
his
he's not
profession of
mean.
killing. He almost romanticizes it in this entire movie. That's
Yeah,
super. He's like Ted Bundy of like the horror genre. Not in the sense of like he's a serial killer, but in the monster sense. Like he's so charming in a sense. Like he's so like mesmerizing and hypnotizing. You're gonna listen to every word that he's saying, whether you agree with it or not. You're sitting there listening because of the way he's saying it, and
when did
that's so hypnotic.
when did um when did um Silence of the Lambs come out? Does this predate
Mm,
Silence of the Lambs? This is 92. I think
I
this
think
predates
Silence
Silence.
of the Lambs came out in '93, and again, that's just me guessing off the top. It was couldn't have been later than '94, so I'm thinking it came out in '93. And if it was earlier than that, it would probably be 1990 or '91.
91. I just checked,
Okay,
91. So
okay,
both him and Hannibal Lecter have a very similar modus operandi. Like you said, he's charming, he's sincere, he's almost sympathetic in a way, you know. And as he's
yeah,
in his voice, it feels like there was Dolby Digital sound before there was Dolby Digital sound because his voice fills a room. It echoes, and you
yeah.
can't tell where it's coming from. It's like it, you know, and it sounds like it's inside your brain when you're hearing it. And you know, he's like Helen. He's like whispering and doing all this, you know, this classic "here kitty kitty" type lines, but he's saying them in such a hypnotic way that it's almost like you're walking towards the blade. You know what I mean? Like he's
And
drawing you
it's
in.
to the point where she's not saying no as much as she's saying no and like please don't. She's accepting it.
Yeah,
It's
she's saying
really
yes.
it's kind of weird and like like what is the word, erotic in a sense, because she's saying no please don't, but then she's like oh you know what I mean,
Ah,
she's like oh no
yeah,
oh no. Like
I do
so it's really
declare.
weird, right? It's such a weird chemistry that they have together because again she's not necessarily allowing him into her life and into her existence and to do the terrifying things that he's doing, but like Clarice Starling, she's accepting it.
It's funny you mentioned that because we're dealing with Clive Barker here, right? Who loves to play with the line of pleasure and pain and acceptance and domination. And with this, you make a great point where she's fighting him, but she's allured by him. And at the same time, she's pulling away, but she can't. You know what I mean? And it's this cat and
Right.
mouse that they play. And you know, it's so weird, but it's playing with salt and sweet at the same time to the point where you can't tell which is which by the end of it. And you know, given the end of this movie, no spoilers, go watch Candyman 92 if you haven't seen it. But you know what I mean? If you haven't seen it,
I
spoilers
suggest
for
you
20.
spoil it as it's 1992. That was
I'm
over 30 years ago.
fine. She kind of gives in to Candyman, right? She does what he says. She fulfills the prophecy. You know what I mean? By his
Yeah,
own doing, because she was tarnishing his legacy, and you kind of feel for her, but you're also rooting for her because she becomes the hero at the absolute end of the film. She gets revenge
yeah.
on her jerk boyfriend. You know what I mean? So this whole movie is just so beautifully done, and just this is one of my favorite horror movie monster, like you said, first one of the first African American monster like movie monsters. He's up there with Pinhead. He's up there with Freddy. He's up there with Jason. And this
Yep.
introduction is almost pitch perfect. It reminds me of Scream in the introduction to Ghostface, like that level of pitch perfect direction and just introduction to a character. Love it, absolutely love it. We're getting there. Toots.
Yay!
Oh
We're almost
Jesus, I
there.
hate this. I
Ah,
hate this movie. Toots number two. I hate this movie.
my
Mm.
number two, 2018's Hereditary. And it's not a specific scene in this movie. It's several specific scenes actually, where if you're actually if you sort of not study, but if you're watching the movie intensely, um, you will see that the person who's slowly and gradually becoming possessed by demons throughout this entire film is doing weird things where she's hiding. and you're not really sure why she's doing it yet, but she's hiding behind the door. She's hiding towards the end of the movie when a lot is already revealed. She's hiding in the corner, up on top in the rafters. Um, and she's actually the one that does most of the jump scares throughout the movie. So Hereditary is actually a movie that's about. I mean, Hereditary. So it's literally about a woman who gets passed down something from her mother, who unfortunately passes away in the beginning of the movie. But what she doesn't understand that is being passed down outside of family issues, outside of family trauma, outside of patterns that need to be broken, and all that other like sociological stuff that you see on the surface. There's actual demons and Satanism and cultism at play. The mother, her mother, the boy's grandmother, um, was an active cultist, worshiping the devil, essentially worshiping Satan. Um, and that being said, like the mother doesn't understand what's exactly happening to her, but she's allowing it to happen in a sense because, man, I love my mom. We had issues, but I have to make amends with her and I have to reconcile with her and come at peace with her at some point. Now that she's dead, I think I can probably do that a little bit better by getting to know her. So she tries her best to get to know her mom through the things that her mom has left behind. And again, in doing that, she opens a door um, to demons and to the exact thing that her mom was essentially setting up for her to know. It's really creepy that this entire movie is a gotcha in a
Yeah.
sense, in that the grandma already knew what was going to happen when they introduced that other the I forgot her name. I think her name is Evelyn. I could be way wrong, but they introduced this other certain character who happens to be grandma's one of grandma's closest friends. But the mother in Hereditary happens to run into her at a supermarket out of nowhere. Hi, stranger, how are you? Look, we have this thing going on, a grief class. Please join it so that you can move forward from your mom's death. Like the film is done so freaking well. This Hereditary is one of the scariest movies I've seen in a long time. To the point where I won't watch it again. It'll never happen. And I rebuke the energies of this conversation in the name of Jesus, just so you know. Like I have to put that out there, because I'm serious. That movie was too heavy, and it was too like it was a little bit too close to home when it comes to cults and Satanism. And
Yeah.
again, the way the mom is just hiding in places, and the way she's just like, um, for no reason, for no reason at all, she's staring at people, and she's just like, and nobody sees that she's there. Nobody is aware that she's even doing any of these things until you see her silhouette in the corner before the scene changes to something else. That is amazing horror, if you ask me. That is so good because one, it builds up towards the end of what am I going to expect from this point if she's already doing stuff like this. Two, you're understanding how much she's actually losing it as a mother, as a human being, as a wife. Like all these things are disappearing from her life in the blink of an eye, and
Hmm.
it's just an amazing way to show that this woman's psychosis is changing, and we know that because she can climb up walls now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it that amazingly insane scene
Through sheer will, she's
scenes.
climbing scenes. Tony Collette, right? She should have got an Oscar for this damn
Yep,
movie.
Toni Collette, I agree.
This this
She's
woman
had she
acted.
has Oscars, but yeah, I agree.
This woman acted her ass off it. The dinner table scene where she has the complete meltdown with her family
Right,
and her husband and her son, and she's screaming for
right.
like understanding and respect. One thing about this movie is that it gives off huge Rosemary's Baby vibes where everyone's against you. And that's what scares me is that secretly all the people that love me in my life are conspiring against me, are pushing me in
Aw.
a direction. And I got my eye on you, Odin. Damn it, Odin.
Jeez, thanks, bro.
No, damn it, Odin. But it's
Wow.
a fear. It's not reality. It's not reality. It can't be reality. My as Michael G has an existential breakdown live on MOTN. You heard it
I
here
assure
first.
you, it's not reality.
It's
Oh my
not
god.
reality, not reality. No, it's just that idea, right? Of like um
Uh-huh.
young man who literally has no choice in his fate. You know what I mean? Like These same things are set in motion the second his grandmother dies. Since then, the ball starts rolling, and you start getting these series of unfortunate events that lead up to literally Tony Collette climbing walls and using piano wire to slit her own throat in front of her son in the dark. And the kid is walking through the house and he just starts seeing old people, like people he's seen in the periphery of his eye, just meeting him in his house naked, just staring at him, praising, like
Naked.
smiling.
Yep.
Like it's so unsettling. This movie is
You know what?
such
You're
a
right. I forgot about the piano. She literally gets piano wire and she's going.
yeah, and just looking
She's
him
literally
dead in the
cutting
eye.
her own head off. Good Lord,
Stop,
Mikey, I
like
forgot about that scene.
stop it, yo.
I'm
It's
by myself right
so
now. Like, seriously, stop. I'm like
like
by
okay. We're
myself
gonna
right now.
we're gonna move on from this. It's just
Dude.
this is one of, like
Yes,
you
you're
said,
right, though.
this is one of the best horror films in the last 30 years because this is a movie you watch and you're like, this is with me for like 30, 60 business days. This movie's gonna be in the back of your head. It's gonna be in every creaking door, it's gonna be in every dark corner. You're gonna see, and it subtly does it, like you said, there's no grand gesture outside of the absolute end of the movie, but it's what's that in that corner, who's staring at you, why is that woman staring at him from across the street. There's a scene where he's in class and one of the old people, one of the cult leaders, is literally staring at him from his class window from across the street, just standing there,
Yep.
super
Doing a wave.
unassuming.
That's it. It's so gross.
Hey,
It's so
hey,
gross.
hey, Payman, you know what I mean? No,
It's so gross. Yeah. No, and
no.
I won't. This one is still a little bit more recent, so I won't. There's a lot that I don't want to spoil, but you're watching certain scenes throughout the movie. It does gradually start to get worse. Tragedies do actually happen in the most grotesque, disgusting way,
Out of
and
control
you
ways.
out of control. And you're just wondering, well, how can it get worse from here? And
It
then it gets
can.
worse from there.
It
Yeah.
can.
If you haven't seen
Hereditary.
Hereditary, watch it.
Jeez Louise, Hereditary. My number two
Yay!
still, still gives me chills to this day. And it's a little movie called The Prophecy, with starring one of his only starring roles, Christopher Walken. And it's about rogue angels who are trying to resurrect the most gnarliest human on earth to run their army against God. And our hero is a priest who's lost his faith, who has to find the will to stop the archangel Gabriel. He has to fight. He has to stop the archangel Gabriel because he's conspired against God. Just little heads up. Mike G is a God fearing man. Went to church. You know what I mean. All that good stuff. So this hit. When I say this hit close to home, as a kid, mind you, this is 1995. It brought out every single fear of going to hell that I ever had. It's just this movie is so well done in regards to these are angels. They're supposed to be scary. You know what I mean? Biblically, they're
Wow.
supposed to, they're supposed to drive fear into man, but then give you the reassurance of God. But no, not these angels, because they've had enough. They're over humans. And Christopher Walken is this example of an angel that knows too much. And there's moments, it's like when you were born, I was the one who put that little indentation in your lip. You know what I mean? Just telling people this and whispering secrets in the depiction of angels in such a barbaric way stuck with me for years because it was something that, growing up, you think they're all sweet and they have little halos with wings, but no, these are vicious animals that are powered by angelic right. You know what I mean? And they don't have your best interest in mind. We're gonna start the war. We're gonna start Armageddon, pretty much. Leading up to Mike, this is so damn scary. There's the scene where they actually find the corpse of the worst human ever, and all the players are there. Gabriel's there. This poor human, he turned some poor guy into a zombie, like the living dead, like a corpse, but he's still walking around, and he's like his soul is damned. That scared me as a kid. Our main hero, Indian shamans, you name it, they're all there, and they're about to have the final showdown, and they're going to lose. We're going to lose. The human race is going to lose. But who saves the day? Lucifer himself. Lucifer appears as Viggo Mortensen, who I didn't know who that was, but he would later go on to play Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings series. He plays the Archangel Lucifer, devil himself, right? And he's the one who stops Gabriel, because if anyone's going to take down God, it's him. So out of sheer spite, he stops Armageddon, and he appears in half shadow, as you can see by this picture, in all black as a normal looking person. And that wasn't as scary as first, until you see an actual demon on the side of him, like the only supernatural real thing you see in the whole movie, creeping from around him. And he does this unholy shriek at it to tell it to get back. Don't bother this human. I'm having a conversation. And he made it so real. And he's whispering sweet nothings into our main character's ear. I'll love you more than Jesus if you worship me. Like this crazy, like terrifyingly beautiful things in his ear. And he's like, I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. But you have to come home with me. I'll fix the problem, main character. But you have to come home with me. And the main character's like, no, I found my faith. I'm going to stick with God. He's like, I can't make you come home with me, but you need to come home with me. And the last thing he says, and I get chills, I'm getting chills right now. He says, you can go, but I promise you, you should never turn off your light when you go to sleep. This is Satan himself telling you, never turn off your light when you go to sleep, ever. And then he disappears and turns into like a fleet of bats or some shit. And as a kid, I slept with my light on for 3 years. I bullshit you not. Because it's all my religion. It's all of my fears. It's all of my, you know what I mean? Like if Satan was to come visit you for real, this is the most realistic way it's going to do it. It's not going to be giant horns and Dave Grohl. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that. It's going to be, you know what I mean? It's not going to be the greatest song. It's not the greatest song ever. It's
a tribute.
You know, it's not a tribute. It's not a tribute, right? It's freaking Viggo Mortensen whispering sweet nothings in your ear while trying to get you to resign your faith. And it's just, it creeps me out to this day. Is this a movie that you're familiar with, Tootie?
I gotta tell you, man, I'm not. I don't think I've ever seen it, if I'm being honest. I know the movie through the fact that Christopher Walken's in the movie. And again, just I want to throw this in there. Sidebar, you mentioned Dave Grohl. Can I do Dave Grohl's impression of Christopher Walken?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he nailed it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but he nailed it. But again, okay, back.
Thank you for cutting that
back
tension.
To the prophecy.
I was freaking myself out. I appreciate it.
Dude, you freaked me the hell out right now. And yeah, I'm literally in the middle of a church pretty much. So like you freaked me out. No, I haven't seen this movie, but I have to watch this movie because I feel like honestly, like in a biblical sense, it's probably very accurate to what would actually happen if you were to encounter the devil.
It is.
Just by your explanation.
It explains that no human has ever gone to heaven that has died because the war is still going on. The war of Lucifer and God is still going on. It's been going on since the fall. So all humans are just in the earth waiting for the rapture. No one can go to heaven until the war is completed. And Gabriel's like, I'm going to finish this once and for all with the soul of the most brilliantly evil man who's ever walked the earth. That's going to be our champion against God. So he goes to find the most sacrilegious body ever created. And through spirit, through dreams, through visions, our priest gets the vision that he needs to stop the war on heaven once and for all. And it does. In the end of the movie, it doesn't even stop it. It just stops Gabriel's ambition to early end it. And the person who stops it is not God; it's the devil. But just out of sheer spite, out of sheer spite,
wow.
and thus the will of God is done through the devil.
That's the devil saying, "You can't fire me. I quit."
You can't fire me. I quit. and it just chills me to the bone every single time. I
That's an
cannot.
amazing pick,
Once
actually.
again, no horror. I mean, horror, but no special effects, no jump scares, no goofy monsters outside of the actual demon in the corner that lets you know, no, this is actually Satan and that's one of his minions, right? It's like the idea crawling into your brain like a worm that, yeah, never turn off your light again because Satan will be waiting for you when you turn off your light. F that. F that. I'm straight. I'm
That's
cool.
that's a really
I'm
good
cool.
pick. That's a really good pick.
I'm
Oh
cool.
my god.
Number two. I'm done. I don't like it.
Wow.
It's so unsettling. I didn't like it.
That's the
It's so
heaviest thing ever.
the prophecy,
That's
bro.
crazy.
I'm not
Yeah.
playing, dude. It's like Seven meets The Omen. It's such a gnarly film, and it's so well done. Toots,
Ah.
right? No.
So my number
Ah,
one,
ah.
1959's House on Haunted Hill. There is an absolute insane, well, not insane, but okay, funny story with this scene. The
Mhm,
first time I saw this movie was in La Mirada, California, at our junior church's leader's house, and it was a girls' slumber party. So it was me and like 12 other girls hanging out, and we decided we were going to watch horror movies, but like from the 50s. We're like, oh no, cheesy, okay. And I must have been 12 at the time. Um, so we watched The Bad Seed, brilliant movie by the way,
brilliant
and then we
movie.
watched this one, House on Haunted Hill. I was not there's this scene. If you have not seen this movie, this scene in particular with this woman, she's not a monster. She's not scary. She's a blind woman. She's actually a janitor in this giant mansion that's being rented out, that's supposedly haunted. That these well-to-do people and not so well-to-do people are specifically randomly chosen to stay a night in the house. If they stay the night through the entire night, they will win some money. All of these people are ready to do it. Again, half greedy, half desperate. Um,
Mhm,
shenanigans ensue. So the female to the right of the screen is downstairs exploring with another gentleman. So they start knocking on walls and like trying to be like, hey, I can hear it. It's hollow here. Hey, it's hollow here. So they're knocking on walls, just trying to figure out like why something happened that shouldn't have happened. If there was like solid walls between the doors, because they were trying to figure out how someone disappeared, I think. Um, while they're doing that, the second she's bending over, she gets back up. As she's getting up from knocking, that is right there to look at her. And it's
mhm.
the most intense thing I've ever seen. That's the very first jump scare that ever got me to the point where I literally pissed my pants. And I did.
Yeah.
I literally pissed my pants. I won't forget it. I've never been so scared in my life outside of this scene. I remember being, I had my best friend at the time, her name was Jennifer, and she was like 6'1". She was a giant girl, 6'1", and I was like wrapped around her, kind of like we were best friends, so we were cuddling. But I was like wrapped around her, and I peed on her. Like I actually ended up peeing on her, and I felt so bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah, my bad. But man, it terrified the piss out of me, quite literally. And you know what? What's amazing about the movie in general, the movie's great. Like
Yeah.
you can watch it today and be like, oh, it's so cheesy because the skeletons coming out and you can probably see the strings and whatnot. But there's never been a jump scare that's been done so well, in my opinion, as this scene here.
Mhm.
You can't top something like this. You get from quiet, it's just quiet, and you hear knock 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 knock. Can you hear me? Okay, knock again. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. And then all of a sudden, BAM! Like this
Yeah.
loud noise, this loud music. And she's right there. And her face is so evil. And again, I don't know. There's no explanation as to why she's doing this in the scene. There's no explanation as to why she has claws
What?
out.
Yo.
There's no explanation as to why she's floating away out of the scene. But you come, the way she's introduced is, oh yeah, she's the janitor with her husband and she's just blind. So she already looks freaky when you first when the woman in black is first introduced. She already has the frizzled hair. She has these wide blanketed eyes that, because she's blind, so they have cataracts over them. And, she already looks very unsettling. So she's
Mhm.
introduced, oh, yeah, that's just the help. They're leaving. They're going to be gone. They're going to lock the door. And once they lock the door, you guys can't go anywhere. So we have to assume that they're gone already, because that's what's being set up. That's what's being told to us. So when the other two go down to the cellar and start studying around and exploring and knocking on walls and shit, you're obviously not going to expect to see janitor lady coming down and scaring the hell out of her. Again, no explanation as to why this is happening, but it doesn't really matter because it worked. It absolutely works. What it does is this is the very first scene that sets the tone for the rest of the movie. Now, there isn't
Mhm.
any other scene specifically that's as scary as this scene, but you can understand that this movie has no predictions. There's no way to understand what's going to happen next after something like this, and that's terrifying. That's absolutely 1,000% terrifying.
Number one, yo, it's interesting. I saw this movie once again later in life. I was more familiar with the House on Haunted Hill remake with Jeffrey Rush and
Also,
Tay
just as good.
Diggs. I love that
I
movie.
loved
It's
it.
so creepy.
Hmm.
Um, and I wasn't really brought. This wasn't brought to my attention. Funny enough, until we became friends many, 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 many years ago, and you told me this exact same story. I was like, no way. And I ended up watching the movie and it got me damn too. It's like the subtle knocking, and then the woman is there, and then she floats out. The quote, "100 greatest movie moments." She floats out on a skateboard or something,
Ah, she
and
does just like that. Ugh.
yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And they do a close up of her face, and she's like freaking out. You know what I mean? Just long enough to get that good scare out. Perfect set, perfect setup, perfect punch. It's how you do it, right? It's misdirection. Knock, knock, knock. Okay, knock, knock, knock. Make it so that it's rhythm. Make sure that you're rhythmically secure, and then bam, it just hits you. You know what I mean? And I love this movie so much. I have a poster of it in my home. Like I have a giant poster of this version with Vincent Price and the story of these desperate people have to spend the night in the house on Haunted Hill. If you can make it through the whole night, you get the check of $10 or whatever was a ton of money back in 1959 or whatever of the
I think it was
$300. It
10,000.
was like
I
$10,000.
think it was
Jeez, I
10,000.
wish.
Yeah.
And wackiness ensues and floating skeletons, but nothing hits, like Tootie said, nothing hits you harder than this damn jump scare with this witch, and she just blindsides you. And after that you're just kind of on edge for the rest of the movie. All right, what else can this movie from 1960, how are you going to get me next time? You got me the first time, I let
Right.
that one slide. How are you going to get me this time? And it just sticks with you. You know what I mean? What's crazy is you don't see this woman ever again. She's not a recurring monster or anything weird like that. No, she just jacks you up and breaks out. She's not even on the poster. She's not even on like the
Oh.
OG poster. She comes out of freaking nowhere and just jolts you and then runs away and floats away. Like Team Rocket, she gets up out of there. You know what I mean? So excellent number one. And for
Yay.
those younger people, check out House on Haunted Hill. I think you'll really get a kick out of it. It's fun. And even though we're telling you about this jump scare spoiler, it's still going to get you. I promise. It's still going to get you. It sets
Yep.
itself up so well that you can know what's coming and it still jack you up.
Let us know if it scares you so we can make fun of you.
Let it know because we will make fun of you in point, and you guys can make fun of me for this number one because this looks goofy as hell in retrospect. But I don't give a but I don't give a shit. This is my number one scare moment of all damn time. 1995, Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. What is Tales from the Dark Side, the movie? It is a horror anthology of about four different stories. The first story is about a mummy with Emilio Estevez, I believe, or something like that. The second, um,
Emilio.
Emilio. The second one is about an evil cat from hell. The third one, I want to say, is about Jesus on the tip of my tongue. But the fourth one, the last one, is called Broken Vow, and it's about this ghoul monster here. When I tell you, and this is once again things I shouldn't be watching at like 9 or 10 or whatever. This thing gave me nightmares and made me not watch this movie for about a decade. It's so well done that I'm gonna set up the scene for you because a lot of people aren't gonna know what this is. You know what I mean? It's not some classic movie. This is pure nightmare fuel. Inglewood, California. Mike G served up on a damn plate. You know what I mean? So it's you open with a gray gargoyle sitting perched on a building, normal gargoyle made of stone. Guy's at a bar. He's drinking his woes away, and he's an artist. I'm an artist, and he's failing. He's a failed artist, and he's getting out. Him and his buddy are stumbling drunk out of a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning, and for some reason, this gargoyle decides tonight is the night. I'm going to bother this man, and the gargoyle appears in shadow like this, and immediately, and all you see is the silhouette of its body, and it's the most unhuman thing you've ever seen. It has reversed knee, like how werewolves have reversed knees. You know what I mean? Like their legs are like inverted, as inverted knees.
Mm-hmm.
Has a crazy wingspan. Has this. I can't look directly at it. It's jacking me up. I can't look directly at it. Its face, and it has this weird, beautifully double joint. Double. Its voice is double jointed. If that makes sense. It talks like this. And it has like this woman man voice at the same time, and it's crazy. It kills the first guy. One hit, boom, he's out. His head gets decapitated. The monster can talk. It corners him, and mind you, it's this close to the camera the whole time. So as a kid, you can't escape it. You can't look away, and it tells him you have to promise for the rest of your life you'll never tell anyone what you've seen. You'll never draw it. You'll never mention it. You'll never speak what I've spoken. You'll never revert. You never talk about this for the rest of your life, and I'll let you go. Right? And the guy says, "I promise. Please don't kill me." And it says, "Cross your heart," and it leaves a giant scar in his chest. Laughs and flies away. 5 seconds later, he runs into the love of his life in the same alley. Right? Radon Chong, one of her first movies, Get a Taste, and they end up falling in love and having the best life ever. Comes to damn find out 10 years have passed. He becomes the ultimate artist. They have kids, him and Radon Chong, and he finally buckles and tells her what happened that night, the night that his life changed. When I tell you, one of the best, scariest movie moments ever is when Radon Chong reveals she was the gargoyle the whole time, keeping tabs on him, making sure that he never said anything to anyone, and transforms in real time right in front of him. You fucking idiot. Why did you tell? I told you to never tell. She starts transforming back into the demon gargoyle. The kids start transforming into gargoyles. He's freaking out. Right? What is happening to my family? He's like, "I love you." And she's like, "I love you too. But you told and you broke the vow." And that was the magic that was keeping all of this going. She kills him, grabs the kids, breaks out happily ever after. Broken vow. It's one of my
That's amazing.
heartbreaking, terrifying. This image was burned in my brain for so many years. This thing terrified. I can't even draw it. I've never drawn it once in my entire life because she said no. She told me no, so I can't
I
draw it.
believe it.
Otherwise, she'll like as a kid. I go back to rules you set for yourself for all eternity. You know what I mean? Can't say Candyman 5 times. Can't draw this thing. Otherwise, you summon it in some kind of weird way. Tales from the Dark Side. The movie. Highly underrated anthology, up there with Creep Show. You know what I mean? It's one of the best anthologies.
Is this Stephen King, by the way?
Yes and no. There were multiple different writers for Tales from the Dark Side. Stephen King and George Romero did Creep Show. That was the two-man band that did all of those.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. These were written by other horror writers at the time. This was technically supposed to be Creep Show 2 when it first was pitched, but they couldn't get the rights, so they got the rights of Tales from the Dark Side, which was for those an 80s horror TV show like Tales from the Crypt. It was like there's a whole show, like multiple seasons of Tales from the Dark Side, and this was their movie. And then this was the very last part of the anthology. Outside the Cat from Hell, outside of you gotta watch Cat from Hell. It's great. Scary, actually. The Mummy. Damn it, I still can't believe I can't remember the third one. That's gonna drive me crazy. But yeah, my number one with a bullet is Tales from the Dark Side, Broken Vow, this damn gargoyle. One of these days, I'm going to get a figure of it or a 1/6 scale just to break the fear, but I can't find it. And I kind of don't want it in my house at the same time. So, yeah. Toots, I'm going to ask you, do you know anything do you know what I'm talking about here? Have you, I don't even think I've talked about this out loud. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever told you about this. You know what I mean?
This particular one, no, you have not. No,
yeah,
not this one.
I don't like it.
I love that his in this picture that you're showing of him now, like he's smiling. Like it looks like he's going, but he's like smiling. He's like smiling at you.
It has personality, dude. It's not just a girl monster. It laughs. It gets when at the very end it gets sad. It cries. It's funny. You know what I mean? Like this thing. I thought it was real as a kid. He's like, why does this thing look so realistic? I know it's not real, but it's real. This thing has jokes, and mind you, before CG, before digital art, this was all in makeup, in animatronics, and practical effects. Beautiful design. This thing is one of a kind. It's up there with like Pumpkinhead. That's my favorite creature designs of all time. Creature feature, like
that's a good one.
It's like Stan Winston levels of ingenuity went into this thing, and I was convinced. I was terrified of this thing as a kid, and it still sticks with me to this day as my number one scare. Like I don't like looking at it. Even me posting this picture was rough. I didn't want to do it, but for the nerdiverse, I love all you guys. I'm willing to brave this film because this is my top 10 horror movie moment of all time.
It's a good thing. Excellent.
Thank you.
Are you exhausted? You sound exhausted.
I am.
After all of that, yeah.
I'm tired. I don't want to talk about it because I have to watch it now. I have to watch it again to face my bloody fears. You know what I mean? This is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. I think just already recording it. And
I know, right?
Already. It's just such good vibes and such good like venting. I feel better now venting about some of my childhood fears and adult fears. And this is the perfect way to kick off the holiday season. You know what I mean? So once again, Tootie, thank you for this brilliant idea. All the kudos go to you, and many more on Channel 4.
To many more on Channel 4, absolutely. So real quick, I want us to go through our honorable mentions before we wrap up. I'm going to go through mine real quick, and then if you have any, I would love to hear yours. My first one is 1971's Willy Wonka, the boat scene. Everyone knows what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. That scene is absolutely disturbing as heck. Willy Wonka is just sitting there in the boat as scenes are happening all around him. There's all kinds of chaos. Chickens are getting their heads cut off, and Willy Wonka is just standing there watching the children and making sure that they're afraid. Like that's the most terrifying thing. Like
there's
ever.
no way we're knowing.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows no signs of slowing.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
My number 2 is you mentioned it in your actual countdown is 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure, The Clown Fever Dream. Absolutely terrifying. Again, there were so many moments in that movie that you can consider just about as terrifying, but that one hit the nail on the head with my childhood fears. And the last one I have isn't a movie at all. It's actually The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, 1990, the very first Treehouse of Horror that they've ever done. And it was the sequence of the Bad Dream House. And the reason why I chose that one is because the house is talking to them, and he's literally convincing them to kill each other. And when I just remember being as a kid, like, oh my God, what if that were to, like, it just hit a little bit too close to home. Like, hey, I have a good family. We like each other. We're kind of happy. What if we moved into a place that gave us voices that told us to start killing each other? Because towards the climax of the episode, they're all walking in a circle in a trance. Homer, Marge, Maggie, Lisa, Bart, walking in a circle in a trance, and they all have weapons. And they're not necessarily about to attack each other, but they all have weapons ready to do so. And again, throughout the entire background and the backstory of of that particular segment of the episode, the house is talking to them like out loud. I want you to leave. And then since they decide not to go, he starts telling them things like, Bart, they've never loved you. No one has ever loved you. And he starts like he starts convincing the family of other things that aren't even real. He starts gaslighting the shit out of the Simpsons. And
Hmm.
that's terrifying. So anyway, that's my third honorable mention. If I should have maybe put it in the countdown. I just wouldn't have known exactly where it would have gone in that countdown. But yeah, that scene in particular stuck with me in The Simpsons.
Amazing.
So that's my honorable mentions. I only have three. Yeah.
Simpsons did it. I can definitely fire off three honorable mentions. Since we're going the non-film route, my honorable mention, my first one will be an X-Files episode called Irresistible. That gave me nightmares, and it's the episode where Scully is kidnapped by this almost like creep. He's a creep that is a necrophiliac. He's into necrophilia, but when he appears to normal people, he appears as a demon in full costume, full nude, demonic visage, right? But he's a normal guy. He's just pure evil. And they do these damn shots where Scully is looking at him and the dude is looking at her face on into the damn screen. And it's just a demon monster face. And it gave me nightmares for weeks. You know I'm talking about? The episode I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where Scully's in
Mm-hmm.
the closet and he has her kidnapped and he's going to like bleach her skin and do all types of weird shit to Scully. But when she sees him, he's in this demonic form. But but Mulder just sees him as a man. You know what I mean? And it's at the end of the episode, they explain that some people are just born evil. You know what I mean? And they show a picture of him as a kid, looking all evil and creepy, irresistible. I can't watch that episode to this day. That's honorable mention. No, don't like it. I don't like it. Exorcist, another honorable mention, and
That's a
it
good one.
is the black and white face that appears, that flashes, not necessarily any of the Regan stuff or the crucifix scene or the spinning heads. It's the scenes where the mom is doing stuff around the house and you see Pazuzu's face in white face, ugly eyes, a yuck mouth in shadow, and it's always like a split second. That freaked me out as a kid. I don't like the way that face looks. You know what I mean? Not almost like your Hereditary choice. It's like it's not necessarily a scene, one scene in particular. It's just this looming evil that's over the film, and you can see its face. Like when she's okay, I'll give you a scene. Remember the scene where Regan is getting surgery, and they put that needle in her, but it gets loose. They're doing the they're doing a scan of her brain, the CAT scan, and you can see the demon's face in the CAT scan as you're scanning Reagan's face.
Mm-hmm.
That scared the shit out of me, man.
Mm-hmm.
And also fear of needles. They accidentally poke her wrong, and the blood squirts out of her neck, and that gave me nightmares because it's like that could happen. You know, funny enough, the guy who was in that scene, one of the extras, was actually a serial killer.
Oh gosh, I did not
Fun,
know that.
like in real life, like for real, and they end up catching this dude later.
Fun
Fun
fact.
fact. Fun fact. And lastly, I would say my Jesus, one of my last big scares, I would say, is from Night of the Living Dead. You know what I mean? Like the old one where the daughter eats the mom in the basement. That gave me a freak out because it's like, as a kid, I'm the kid, and it's like the idea of if I get bit, I can't control myself, and I'm just going to kill my whole family. And there's nothing I can do about that. Now, that upset me as a kid. Like I won't have any control, and I'm going to hurt my mom. I'm going to hurt my dad. I'm going to hurt my cousins. You know, and it's like watching watching the mom not fight back was even more unsettling. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because it's her baby. She just let the
That's her
baby
baby.
kill her.
Yeah.
And it's like my mom would not fight me back. She would just let me do what I had to do. And that upset me so damn much because it's like I don't want to hurt my mom. And I had another once young existential horror crisis. Like being a zombie
I
is
love my
absolute
mama.
worst. I love my mama. You
But I
know,
love
so
my
it's one of those.
mama.
But I love my mama. You know, it's one of those things where it's just I didn't like it. So yeah, top. Those are I'm saying my honorable mentions. That's just off the top of my head. Horror movie
Okay.
moments, and it's funny. It's like we
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Go. Okay. I have one more. I don't know if you remember, but I have to bring it up. Goosebumps. The episode with Carly Ray. The
Is
one where
that the?
she buys the costume. She buys the mask, the costume mask, at the Halloween store, and she puts it on, and then she's like, ah, "I'm a creep, blah blah blah," but
She
she
can't
can't
take
take
it
it
off.
off.
Yeah,
She
ghoul
can't take it
mask.
off.
Yeah, and that
That's a
was
good
scary
one.
too, dude. That's a good one. Ooh, ooh. Okay,
That's all.
last.
Okay, good.
Uh, aliens. The scene where Newt and Ripley are trapped in the room, and the face huggers in there with them, and there's water, and it's in red, and the facehugger grabs her, and she's literally fighting it off, and she does that breathing that I can't even like fake it. It's like you know what I mean? She starts like hyperventilating, and the Marines
Yeah.
are trying to get through the door, and Newt is holding, and then you realize there's a second face hugger in there. I'm like, no, they're gonna die, dude. Like it's over, game over, man, game over. And that was such a tense. Why am I watching this scene? You know what I mean? Like one of
Don't you
those
see
I
the
don't want to
second
watch.
face hugger like on the side of the camera
It
though?
peeks out.
Like where it's
It
like a
crawls from
silhouette of Nuke. Yeah,
Newt is
and then it,
screaming
yeah,
and it's
exactly.
behind
Yeah.
Newt. Newt is screaming and it's behind Newt. And it just kind of creeps out. And you're like, it's over, man. I don't like
That's a good
this.
one.
Why am I watching this? Why am I watching this? Oh, let's go. Scary stuff rise. I love this scary stuff, man. Tootie, where can we find you? Let's put a cap on this toothpaste before we both traumatize ourselves until the night, yo.
Yeah, like re-traumatized. Yeah, I'm good on that. You can find me at the Love Hub underscore LA on Instagram. It's probably the only place you'll find me these days. And again, I just want to remind you guys that my Instagram is solely for business and promotion. Whatever you got going, let me know, and I will just gladly share it for you without issue. I don't care what it is. I want to support. That's the whole goal of the page is just to support people who are doing good things, people who are doing art, people who are doing music, people who are doing movies, people who are doing written word. We're good. I got you, and that's all I want to do. It's just my full intention. This cat is to just to support people. Like I said, the Love Hub underscore LA. I want to thank Mike G. I want to thank you specifically for doing this episode. Him and I are both currently under the weather right now. I don't know if you guys can tell. I kind of hope not, but we're both pretty sick at the moment. And thank you so much for your hard work. Like you pulled this together under a whim. We came up with an idea, and you absolutely worked your ass off to rock it. And I appreciate your hard work, like more than anything. And again, thank you for having me
I taste blood. Yeah, yeah, it's rough. It's rough, Tootie. No, thank you.
here.
We were trying to find content, and Tootie literally pulls content from the sky like a muse, just plucks it from the ether, just like that. Yeah, and just threw it against my windshield, and I swerved, and I was hit with an epiphany. So once again, thank Tootie for bringing this ITO to fruition. Literally through this together today. Like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just do it. I'll figure it out. And we literally pulled everything together, pulled our ideas together, made our lists, made the deck, made everything, and it just came together so beautifully. So once again, Toots, thank you so much. And once again, please follow Toots on Insta. Good vibes only.
Oh.
Good vibes only. Don't come in here with no bullshit. I don't want to hear it. Tootie's a sign of souls. She's the sign.
You were
She's
gonna
like, hey,
say
souls.
saint. He was gonna say saint, but I'm not a saint. He
No,
asked
who
me
wants to be a
twice.
no why? Because who wants to be a saint, dude? Sainthood is rough, dude. Nobody wants to be a saint,
Boring.
dog. Boring. And then they just name a crappy city after you. You know what I mean? And then that's your story. You know, and that's that. You don't want that to be
That's
your
good.
stories. She is the sign of souls. She's not a saint because you know that's a boring
Oh.
existence. So once again, you can find this on YouTube because we're taking YouTube by storm. What's coming up on the channel? This episode is coming up very shortly. Don't want to timestamp it too much, but always be excited for MOTN Live on Fridays. Come through. We just hanging out. There's no there's no themes. There's no reviews. It's just vibes. We're just gonna hang out and cuss and talk about things and goof off. And I may wear funny hats sometimes. Toots may show up with like weapons. It's gonna be great, dude. Like just come through. There's special guests if they decide to show. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole lot of fun to be had. So please check out MOTN Live on Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Where it's an hour. It's a hot hour, and you never know what's gonna happen. Ask questions. Jump in the chat. If you want to be a guest, hit us up on Instagram. Let us know. And if you match the vibes, then you can be on the show. We're looking for a few good people to join the Nerdiverse. So this is a shot across the bow to everyone who's interested. YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, putting up artwork, putting up lives, putting up reels, anything we can figure out. We're trying to make this channel work. So once again, thank you, Nerdiverse, for holding us down. I've, of course, been your host, Mike G. She's been Tootie Odin. And there's no real exit to the top tens. So I'm going to make one up right now on the fly, zip it up, and zip it out.